What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Bear Down Boys podcast, where to my right I have the tight end fighting machine that is Jay Rice Sports, and then the fullback fiend, as he calls himself in Miller Football, right down below me. And to start off the episode, like we always do, last episode, how are you guys doing?
I'm doing all right. It took me a second to realize what you were saying when you introed Jarrett, because I heard Titan, and I was like, who is he fighting? What did I miss? I was gonna say I thought I missed like some lore where Jarrett had to like fist fight an 8-foot tall being.
No, that's just my regular Saturday night.
Right, that's just an average Saturday night for Jay Rice Sports. No, I'm doing all right.
Also pretty solid, you know. No Bears football on today, so it can't be perfect, but not bad.
We're not that far away from it.
Yeah.
We have till Saturday, and it's the Bills. We get to see
I get to watch Ty Johnson.
Walker. That's true. Ty Johnson just did sign with the Bills.
The man from my hometown who finally got signed.
Not as good as the man from my hometown, Roschon Johnson.
Yeah, well, not everyone can have elite NFL running backs from
the
their
closest guy
hometown.
to my hometown is Jimmy Garoppolo, so.
Sucks to suck. Ty Johnson better.
Hey, he's been to a Super Bowl. Can any of your guys say that?
Roschon's a rookie, and Ty Johnson got stuck on the Lions and the Jets. So
Earl Thomas is also from my area. So, you know, he was a pretty elite safety for a while. Southeast Texas, you know, we produced them elite.
Wait, wasn't
NFL
Earl
talent.
Thomas the one that had a gun to his face from his girlfriend because of something that happened?
She walked in on. We don't need to get into it, but just the football part, Southeast Texas, bro, elite football talent.
Earl Thomas was a hooper, man.
He may have went a little insane, but he had some elite talent.
Well, this is a Bears podcast, so let's get into some Bears topics. Just overall, how'd you guys think about the Colts game? I know we lost.
It sucked.
It was a lot less fun.
It was ugly. Yeah.
It was a very ugly, undisciplined football game, which Eberflus was not happy about. You can see him on the sideline getting very angry. It was tough. It was really tough. Watching PJ Walker play football makes me sad.
That rolls into my first point. How do we feel about PJ Walker potentially not even being on the roster by the end of the preseason?
I don't want to overreact to preseason, but the stuff he's doing negatively is it's really bad. Like, he's starting to look like an XFL football player again. That's the best way to put it.
With XFL, he was doing great.
Well, I mean, a guy that should have been in the XFL. Like, obviously in the XFL, he was good, but he's making a lot of dumb decisions. He's missing open receivers. I know one of the bad plays he had was a straight up drop by Equanimous, and I'm not going to blame him for that. But he's making a lot of really dumb decisions and getting outplayed by a D2 UDFA and Nathan Peterman does not bode well for your chances if you want to make an NFL roster, especially because the dead cap, if we cut him, is $3 million, I think. If that. Yeah, that's not a lot to eat. And Peterman, they seem to like him as a locker room guy. Bagent looked really good. And if he continues, and they love Bagent dating all the way back to the Senior Bowl because Getsy was coaching him at the Senior Bowl. So if they really like those two, and PJ, I get it, you bring him in, he's a good backup to Fields. You can do a lot of the same mobility stuff that Fields is doing with PJ. But if he's going to keep playing this bad and the other guys are going to keep playing that good, I know it's just preseason, but at a certain point, you got to show that you're worth keeping on the roster, you know? And it's I don't know. It's tough. It's tough. I do not like what I've seen out of PJ Walker so far.
I mean, to add on to the don't overreact to preseason thing, I feel like since he's been on the team, it wasn't just preseason, going back to training camp and the practices and stuff. Given I wasn't there in person, so I don't know off of my own eyes, but from the reports that came out all throughout training camp, it was usually there was so many tweets and whatnot about just him making bad plays. You know, most of the interceptions I feel like were thrown by him. So he obviously didn't have a strong training camp either. His preseason games have been rough. And like you said, at least Peterman's a good locker room guy. I feel like PJ Walker was kind of signed to not just do that, but hypothetically, you know, worst case scenario, if our quarterback Justin Fields goes down, he could go in and be serviceable in games. But with how he's shown in preseason, not really looking like he can do that either. And I don't want to just like, oh, throw him under the bus, all his fault. But yeah, he's not looked very good, and he's gotten outplayed in both games. So I wouldn't be surprised if we let him go, but I don't know how drastic they're going to make that, how if they're going to make that decision or not.
It's simply just been sloppy football. I don't know if it has to be pointed to him, because when we look at the quarterbacks that played with Peterman, who has been pretty solid through preseason, he has not looked like Raiders Peterman or Bills Peterman. And then we look at the rookie Tyson Bagent. Like, those guys are playing at a well above PJ Walker standard right now, and it's showing. And it's every time we have a QB change, it's drastic in the change from PJ Walker to whoever, and it's probably going to end up with him coming off being off the roster by the end of preseason and probably going to a QB needy team like the Raiders, because who else do they have besides Aiden O'Connell and a fading Jimmy G? I love PJ Walker. In your preview, Miller, when you invited us for that, he was my free agent signing. He was the guy I was hoping that would make an impact in the locker room and also on the field if just never got hurt. And that, it kind of breaks my heart that bro is struggling hardcore.
Yeah, no, he's looked terrible. And, I think just looking at it from a baseline perspective, like if you're getting outplayed by a D2 UDFA that's throwing passes to Simba Webster and Doreese Fountain, it's not looking good. Your chances of making the roster greatly diminish. And I mean, the Bears have already said, in the most, diplomatic way possible, they're already having conversations, right? Like if you hear a team say something along the lines of anything's possible, then there are conversations being had in the building about what's going to happen at QB2. So I really do think with how much they liked Bagent going into the offseason, going into the draft, and how poorly PJ Walker's performed, I think at the very least we're going to see Bagent as QB2 this year.
Yeah, I think so.
I wouldn't
if he
even
keeps
be
it up.
mad. I'd like. I mean, given I don't want to be overreacting. It's 2 weeks into his first preseason, but he's looked really impressive in the very limited action we've seen from him.
Yeah,
and it's weird because, like you said, D2 undrafted rookie, and he looks like poised in the pocket. He's making smart decisions, and I feel like that's like Walker's problem. I mean, yeah, accuracy hasn't been great, but I feel like when watching the games, his biggest issue that I've seen has been he looks like timid in the pocket.
He has no pocket presence. Yeah,
for someone who's been, I mean, he's not like a 15-year vet, but he's been in the league long enough that you should feel like at least look remotely comfortable in preseason action. But he looked super timid. On one of the sacks, there was like a free rusher off the edge, but like instead of he's a fast dude. Instead of trying to do anything to avoid a sack, he literally just freezes and lets the guy hit him. Like
yeah.
His strengths don't even look like strengths at this point, and that's probably a big issue if you're trying to make a roster. So
yeah. And I just want to say real quick, I don't want to downplay Bagent too much, by giving him the D2 UDFA label. Like, this is a guy who won the D2 Heisman. I can't remember the name of it for the life of me. I want to say, who's it named after? It's named after an old Raiders player. I can't remember who for the life of me. But like I was talking Harlan. I said an old Raiders player. I'm an idiot. Harlan Hill, one of the all-time leading Bears receivers. I'm a terrible Bears fan.
Yeah. I don't know. I've never heard of Harlan Hill in my life.
Yeah, Harlan Hill's one of our all-time. He's in our top 3 or 5 as a receiver. I want to say top 3. He was a wing back in the day.
But that's why I don't know him. He's older.
Yeah, he played in the 40s. But I was talking to my boy.
If he played in the 40s, that's really impressive because he was born in 1932.
He played in the. I thought he played in the 40s. He
54.
50s. Okay, yeah. Either way, I was talking to my buddy Tyler DeSena. I don't know if you guys have seen me interact with him on Twitter, but he actually got to interview Bagent prior to the draft and is a big Bagent guy. And me and him have been going back and forth about him because of how he's been playing. And like, he knows his stuff, so I feel confident like quoting him. He said that Bagent essentially was like D2 Patty Mahomes. Like, as crazy as that sounds, he was out there. And I know the reason I bring that up is because there's a lot of Bears fans right now talking about like, yeah, he looks cool in the quick game, the short game, whatever. What's he doing when he's passing down the field? Because he hasn't done that yet.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a good arm. He can make plays downfield. At least he was in college. So I think Bagent going into the season, if I would have known more about him, like I didn't realize that he was D2 Harlan Hill winner, D2 Patty Mahomes, right? I didn't realize all that. And if I would have known that, I feel like I probably would have been a little bit higher on him. But that's hindsight bias. I'm not going to act like, but the point is, like, I think Bagent definitely is starting to solidify himself as QB2 here. It's not like my point is, this isn't some unknown. This isn't some guy coming out of total left field. It's someone that the Bears coaching staff has been familiar with for a little while now. Luke Getsy got to coach him at the Senior Bowl. He has the resume, at least as far as a D2 quarterback goes. So I think if you have him coming in as the backup behind Fields, it makes a lot of sense. So I think that's why these conversations are happening. And the bigger point with that is I'm trying to say I don't think it's overreacting too much if we're starting to look at him as QB2. But I do think it's the right move at this point because PJ just isn't it. He hasn't been it.
I think Tyson's already solidified himself as QB2, as crazy as that might sound, because of how bad PJ has been. And I don't think the Bears have it in the right mind to have Nathan Peterman be our QB2. I don't think at this point in time.
He's a locker room guy.
Yeah.
He's a clipboard holder.
Yeah, so if he's QB3, that's fine. That's our emergency backup. But Tyson has been outperforming PJ by a large margin, and obviously he's not going to take over Justin's job. But the man has balled out. Even though we lost the Indy game, I don't blame him because the Peterman came in the last quarter or whatever.
If we really want to point fingers, it was Robert Burns that lost the game at the very end.
I turned it off at one point because I just doing other stuff.
They had an opportunity for a game-winning drive, and they had Robert Burns out of Connecticut taking halfback snaps at the very end.
I did see that. Yeah,
they ran the ball with him. I want to say it was a inside zone, and he picked up the first down but fumbled at the very end of the play, and the Colts picked it up and could kind of run clock.
See,
it's tough.
My thing is like in preseason you want to win because that usually means that your team played better, but preseason I feel like the score literally doesn't mean anything. It's individual players' performance, and I'm not gonna one fumble send him to the shadow realm or anything like that. Like Burns played relatively well in the game, minus the fumble that I saw at least.
The problem with that, though, is we're talking about a backup fullback when you have one of the 5 best fullbacks in football.
Listen,
so he was fighting a hard, unwinnable uphill battle to begin with. And then they finally put the ball in your hands, which is big for any fullback. Right?
He was taking halfback snaps, wasn't he?
That's what I'm saying. Yeah, they had because that's what he was. He was a halfback at Connecticut, and then they kicked him into fullback when we picked him up. And they finally put the ball in your hands. They give you an opportunity to do something, and you fumble when the lights are brightest. It's tough. No, I do agree. I still think he's good. I like him as a blocker. He won't make our team. He was never going to make our final 53. But as a practice squad guy, or maybe even getting picked up to play fullback elsewhere, he's a solid option.
I would like him as a practice squad guy throughout the season. I mean, obviously, I don't want anything to happen to Takari or anything, but you always have to plan for kind of worst case
you get a game where he's dinged up or something. You can call Burns up. I get it.
I'm not going to blame Burns because he's a rookie, right? Yeah, he's a rookie. He's taking halfback snaps in the NFL. It's probably he's probably shaking his boots. So I'm not going to blame him. I'm going to blame PJ Walker for not playing well at all in this first quarter or whatever.
I mean, yeah, fair.
But Tyson was handling himself really well in that game, and talking about practice squad, going off of that as well, we cannot let this man go to the practice squad because if you go,
he's making the 53 no matter
and
what.
I understand that. That's why I'm saying that people have been like, well, we're paying PJ a lot of money. We're gonna eat the cap anyways. But if for whatever reason, the McCaskies have been known to be frugal for whatever reason, and they put him on the practice squad. The Packers can pick him up. The Lions can pick him up. Shit, if Kirk gets hurt, I know you're a Jaron Hall believer, Miller, but if Tyson Bagent is showing up, he's showing up, and that can lead to issues down the line for us.
I don't
knows?
see
He
a
could be the
world
next
where he
Brady.
doesn't make the roster, man. Even if they are desperate to hold on to PJ Walker for the sake of money, they'll just cut Peterman. Like, he's going to make the roster no matter what. He has solidified himself a spot.
Well, because there's like that new rule with for quarterbacks going into the season. I think like the 49ers submitted it because of the NFC Championship game, where you have to have a certain amount of inactive players each week. You can have an extra quarterback active, but they won't like count towards the amount of active players on the roster. So I feel like if there's ever a scenario where you're going to have 3 QBs on the roster, this would be, the one.
I think we're going to see just about every team carry 3 quarterbacks this year because of that. Like, it still counts against your 53, but the fact that you get an extra dressed player, no matter what, I think is pretty big.
And like with something, it's something that the Bears fans in general have just been, dying for years, is the developmental quarterback. I can't English. We've never really had one. We kind of had like, Tyler Bray, or if you want to count Nathan Peterman as one, I guess you could maybe do that. But we've never
David
had like
Fails.
that I have not heard his name in years. Jeez. But yeah, we've never really had one, and I feel like we, Bagent is kind of like the first time we've actually like had a developmental quarterback that it could ever amount to anything. And I don't see a scenario where we risk putting him on the practice squad or anything like that. Like, I think he's like more than just locked into the roster.
Yeah, Getsy's going to go to bat for him. The whole offensive staff is going to go to bat for him. If that happens, Eberflus is going to go to bat for him. If that happens, Poles is going to be all about him. And when you see fans clamoring the way they are over him, unless he comes out the 3rd week of the preseason and looks like the worst quarterback to ever touch a football, unless he looks like, OG Nathan Peterman that threw 4 picks and a half, I don't see a world where he doesn't make the roster.
Wasn't it 6 picks and a half?
Whatever it was.
It was not good football. That's what
it was a lot of interceptions in a short amount of time.
First career game, and it was Nathan Peterman I like on the team because he boosts the defense's morale whenever he plays practice.
He's not even that bad anymore.
He's definitely improved, but I would be horrified if he ever had to take a significant snap in the regular season.
Let's try not to have that happen. One last thing I want to talk about Tyson Bagent, because I saw it on Twitter. I know it was a joke, but I want you guys to seriously think about it. If Tyson Bagent was on that 2018 team, do we win that Eagles game without having to use that field goal?
Oh my God.
Are we trying to off of 2 preseason games? Seems like a lot of trust to put for a playoff game.
Tyson Bagent has played really, really well. And Mitch has always been just meh at best.
As the biggest Mitch critic on this podcast, no, it changes nothing.
You don't even think he brings like the extra riz you need as a quarterback?
Mitch had a lot of riz, man.
Mitch was like the quirked up white boy.
He was. If there's one thing Mitch had going for him, it's the quirked up white boy vibe.
See, I don't know enough about Bagent to like crown him as a playoff caliber quarterback at any point in his.
I'm not saying he's playoff quarterback. I'm just saying, do you think he could have been better than Mitch in that game?
No.
Given this game was what? That was like, it's like what, 4 or 5 years ago, which makes me feel old and depressed because we haven't been good since then. But Mitch, he wasn't great in that game. Obviously, we scored like 13 points or 14, whatever it was. So obviously he wasn't great, but I don't remember him playing like.
No, it wasn't even
bad.
Mitch. Again, as the biggest Mitch critic here, it was the defense that sold. You guys not remember the last game-winning drive they let up, and then I think they scored a 2-point conversion at the end of it, and the defense couldn't hold.
Mm-hmm. I'm bringing up stats right now.
It was because we didn't have Eddie Jackson. Eddie Jackson didn't play that game. It made the secondary go to shit.
I forgot because he got hurt against his game-winning pick against
he
Green
tried
Bay
to bring that pick out, and when he took a knee, his
knee
buckled up.
I mean, Mitch lost 303. Yeah.
No, Mitch he actually looked good on the drive leading up to it. He had a sick pass to Allen Robinson down the sideline.
I do remember that
one. Mitch was not the reason we lost that game. It was the defense. The defense crumbled. And a big reason for that. It's ironic because the 2 guys that I'm the most critical of from that team Kinda. Leonard Floyd's probably higher than Mitch, but the two guys that I'm the most critical of from that team, arguably, are the two guys that like would have been the keys to us winning.
Mm-hmm.
It's Mitch played fine, and Eddie Jackson not playing really set our secondary back, because I think Deion Bush was the backup that year at free safety.
Mm-hmm.
Like Deion Bush is fine, but you don't want him starting in a playoff game.
If I'm not mistaken, that was his rookie year too.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Which
I just want to throw it out there.
Oh,
See if
go
you guys
ahead.
had any, I just want to see if you guys had any wild takes about that. That's all I'm saying.
I just want to point out I'm a Leonard Floyd guy. I'm a big fan of his, so
I know you
respect him.
are. There's only one take in that question, and it's no. And if you say otherwise, you need to stop.
I just want to see if you threw one of my certified hot takes out there.
No, it's not a hot take. That's just fishing for that's fishing for reactions.
That's
I
all
just
Twitter
bought
is, isn't
Twitter Blue and I want interactions, so I get paid. Let me tweet out some
That's Twitter
goofy
Blue.
shit.
It's okay.
That's
No, see,
rent.
I hate that that's a thing because now people like the PJ Walker interception in the first week. They're like, oh, that's Justin Fields. Interact with my tweet. And now there's one going around of it was the Cowboys game where their cornerback, like their 7th string cornerback got burnt. And they're like, hey, look, Trayvon Diggs is garbage. It
Or the
pisses me
people
off.
sharing the video of Isaiah Bolden getting hurt for interactions. Did you guys see that?
I have not.
What game was that?
That was
It was
the
the
Packers
Patriots
Patriots.
Yeah. Do you know what happened?
Oh, they stopped the game.
I know like what
Yeah,
happened. I don't like watching that stuff. So
Right, no,
I didn't go.
That's
to look
my
for the
point.
video.
There were people reposting that video, engagement farming over it. But like
That's shitty.
yeah, it was a weird. He went for a tackle, hit him weird, and he just didn't get up. They said he's fine. They said he can move everything, and he's getting released from the hospital here soon. But it was, a guy stopped moving on the field, and they had to stretcher him off, and people were like, "Oh my God, look at this play! Look at this play! Look at this play!" Like, no, stop sharing it. I hate when people do that. It's ridiculous. And like people were doing it more often than they normally do. Like I remember when the Damar Hamlin thing happened. There were more people sharing a preseason version of that happening, kind of, than
Not that extreme.
the actual one that happened during the regular season on primetime television where the guy almost died because they were engagement farming with Twitter Blue. It's crazy.
Yeah, I'm not.
Elon just keeps ruining that app.
Elon ruined the website.
Yeah.
We don't
Did
even
you
call
guys?
we don't even call it X like it's supposed to be.
No.
Everyone's just like, no, it's Twitter.
Not to go too off topic, but did you guys see where Elon got fucking owned by the fact check box?
Yes, they did. About the blocking thing.
Yeah. God, I love the internet.
I'm not. I'm like one of the biggest Elon haters in the entire world. So.
Dude, all he's doing with the whole blocking thing is trying to make it so people can't block him and his cronies that are spreading his bullshit propaganda.
I don't have him blocked. I don't think I have him muted. So
yeah,
I think I should as well.
It's like, hey, all the women on this app that get genuinely harassed by creepy men that send them pictures of their private parts. I'm a grown ass man. I just said private parts. Pictures of their dicks in their DMs. Fuck you. I don't want people to block me because my ego's too big. Fuck Elon Musk, dude. He is.
Have you ever seen what he posts? All he does is post memes from like 2009. That's his entire like tweets.
He posted like
Elon Musk he's the Twitter equivalent of iFunny.
Yeah.
He posted an anti-autistic meme and an anti-trans meme when his kid's trans and he's autistic. So bro is just confused.
Send him to the fucking gulag. Like I'm so over Elon, dude.
With Mark Zuckerberg. Just...
When they were joking about Mr. Beast buying Twitter, I actually got so excited because even if Mr. Beast doesn't know how to run a social media platform, he would find people that do.
Mm-hmm. And
then all they would do is just take user input. Like I love it. He is the inverse Elon Musk. Except instead of using his money for furthering space research, he's just like, how many cars can I blow up? Which is cool and arguably more impactful to the world than whatever Elon's doing.
It's entertainment, at least.
Yeah. Elon's just like, I want to make a tire that doesn't require air. How do I do that? And everyone's like, that's not how that works.
All right, let's get back onto topic to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah. Let's talk about
hate
football.
video.
We talked about it last week with Velus Jones and how we complained about him being terrible, and he was out this game with a non-practice. What he was injured?
Yes, he was hurt.
He got hurt in practice.
I'm sick of people looking at that and saying, "Oh, he didn't play. He's making the roster." No, he was hurt. He physically could not play.
Did you see more than one person?
Yes.
Okay, because I don't know the one that we both interacted with.
No, there were a couple people that said that. It got to the point where I saw Bears beat reporters being like, "No, dude, we were talking about this on like Tuesday. He's hurt. He hasn't practiced. That's why he's not here." It's goofy.
But I wanted to point out that we had no muffs on special teams. We had a fumble. That was after the guy got the ball, but we had no muffs on Saturday. Dante Pettis took it, I believe. Shit, there was another guy. Was it December Webster that took another return?
Probably.
He's usually the other guy, yeah.
It was we had a bunch of other guys taking returns, and no one muffed it. One guy fumbled it. I can't remember who it was. I'm pretty sure it wasn't Pettis, but you guys' thoughts after we talked last week and we shat all over Velus Jones Jr.
See, okay, I will.
We don't
say
have
this.
anyone on this team that can return a punt.
Yeah. Okay. So if Velus does get the ball in his hands, I feel like he's the most explosive option. But then you have to take into account he can't get the ball in his hands.
Yeah, I don't care how explosive you are. If you can't catch the football, it's for nothing.
Yeah. The flip side of that is you have Dante Pettis who can catch the ball, but he's not going to get you any more yards than where he catches the ball. He's going to stand there and try and do his juking bullshit and get tackled immediately. And Webster's pretty much Pettis too. He'll catch it, but he's not going to really make a play out of anything. I don't know. Like those are our options, and none of them are very.
I'd rather have Pettis. Like if out of everyone on this team, Pettis is who I want returning punts. Because even if you're not getting extra yards, I don't care. Just fair catch the ball every fucking time.
I was going to say, with the new rule with the fair catch rule, you're getting up to 25
definitely
release.
better than the whole fumbling it every time. You know, multiple games last year, we would have had a better chance of winning if Velus Jones didn't fumble every punt he touched.
Yeah.
And with the new rule, like we're going up to 25 no matter what. So
I'm going to point out I hate that rule. I know
it's
it makes it
rule.
for safety, but I didn't realize that was a rule in college football. I'm not a big college football guy. I'm letting that be known now. And when I went to college at when I first moved off for college, I was in College Station and I went to like the first A&M game of the season, and on a kickoff or whatever, the dude fair caught it at like the 10, and I'm like, is this man insane? Like, what am I watching? This is the dumbest thing I've ever seen. And they took it out to the 25 or the 20 or whatever, and I was like, oh, I guess I just don't know the rules of college football.
Yeah, it's dumb. I hate it. No, the way this team should be set up is I'd like to see Tyler Scott take a couple punt returns, see what he can do. I'm sure there's a reason why we haven't, or no, we did see that in the first game, didn't we?
That was kick.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it was just kick. I don't think he did punt returns in the first game.
Yeah, I'd like to see him on punt returns to see what he can do. And then I want Khalil Herbert returning kicks. Like, I know RB1, Taboo, whatever. He's not going to be RB1 the whole season. So,
and in this team, I don't think RB1 exists. I think it's just
it's a committee.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like, when you start games, Herbert's probably going to be the first back on the field. And then after that, you know, who gets the most carries will be feeding the hot hand type thing. But like when we, especially week one, when we tried out the offense for the first time, it'll be Khalil Herbert in the backfield. Unless they come out running some crazy heavy set, which like, yes, please, but they won't. Or they go the Nagy route and try to run the fucking T formation as our first. You guys remember that? The first play of the Nagy era was out of the T formation.
I don't remember the first game.
I remember the first game, but I don't remember our offense. I just remember Khalil Mack was like literally a god in that game. That's all I remember.
No, Nagy made that a big point. He was like, we're going to honor the tradition in the history of the Bears. And he came out in the T formation. It was like, props to him. I love it. That's like one of the few good decisions Nagy made. That putting Akeem Hicks at fullback and doing the fullback dive like the fridge. Like, I'm cool with honoring the team's legacy in that kind of way. But unless the Bears do something like that this year, I think it'll be Herbert's the first RB out. But the point is, he's the best kick returner we have. Him or Tyler Scott. And then punt return should probably be Tyler Scott or Dante Pettis. Because if Dante Pettis makes the roster, Simba Webster isn't going to be there. And Velus Jones shouldn't make the roster.
It really sucks that we have to give up on a 3rd round pick after a year, but
It is what it is.
he-
We've got
he just-
Tyler Scott. We've got DJ. I'm
He
fine
hasn't
with it.
done anything to deserve a roster spot. You
He'll
keep giving
find
him glimmer
Here's
of
the-
hope, and then he crushes it. So
Yeah, here's the thing with that, right? People get mad about the Velus Jones pick. People get mad about the Chase Claypool trade. The Bears needed help at receiver,
Mhm.
and Ryan Poles put assets towards it. He took a couple swings. Did he miss on one? Absolutely. On the other, I still say TBD, but we shall see. He also got DJ Moore. So, like, he's putting assets towards helping the quarterback. Why is that a bad thing? I don't see why
'Cause we're the
people are
Bears.
complaining. Who cares? You're putting assets towards helping the quarterback.
I agree.
That is what matters. Velus Jones pick, bad. Yes, I agree. Bad process? No. It was
Mhm.
good process. I talked about this last week. You had the worst after the catch team in football. You go
Mhm.
out and get the best after the catch receiver in college football, and your quarterback vouched for him. That's good process, if you ask me.
Mhm.
In the 3rd round, where you're already starting to look at just value picks, you're not necessarily trying to find a surefire starter right away. I still even think Velus has some value on offense as a gadget guy, but I think with how much he's fucked up on special teams, it's kind of pointless to try to explore. And then with Chase Claypool, like I said, I still think he can be good, but even if he isn't, midway through last year, our receiver core was dog water. Ryan Poles had the opportunity to have 2 second-round picks, and he said, okay, I will give up one of these in an attempt to help my quarterback.
Mhm.
And that's what he did. It didn't work out, but he didn't know that Chase Claypool was going to take 15 years to learn the playbook and then get hurt.
Yeah.
That's not something he expected. He took a swing on it. I don't see the problem with that, especially if he knows how to cut his losses quickly. Like if Velus gets cut right now and then Chase Claypool, if he sucks this year, doesn't get re-upped, I'm going to push so many like Ryan Poles is a genius narratives out of that,
Mhm.
because knowing when to give up and cut your losses is a skill that a lot of GMs don't know. Look at Ryan Pace. He had no idea how to do that. If Ryan Poles knows when to cut his losses, I'm going to be ecstatic.
When Velus gets cut on the Bear Down Boys Twitter, which y'all should follow, there's gonna be a celebration. I swear. There's gonna be this massive post.
When he gets cut, I'm going to make a TikTok saying exactly what I just said. Ryan Poles knows how to cut his losses.
Honestly, you were talking about Velus being a gadget guy and having value there. We saw Nasimba and Dante in the last few weeks been used as gadget guys. So it's not like we're out of a gadget guy. We can, if we.
No,
I
and Tyler Scott can do it too. That's the other thing.
Yeah.
Like, Velus has value as a gadget guy, but he's not even the best gadget guy on the roster right
True.
now. Tyler Scott's better. Simba, I don't know, probably
I
about
like him.
equal. And then Dante Pettis, if he makes the roster, he can do a little bit.
I think Dante's made it just because Velus is trash.
Unless they look out of house to get a punt returner, I think Pettis will make the roster.
yeah, I feel like because we are first in like the waiver order, and there's always those guys who like probably shouldn't be cut from their teams. We get cut like right before the season. If something like that happens, I could see him not making it. But other than that random scenario, I think Pettis probably makes it just strictly for return abilities.
This is how we get Kevontae Turpin.
Real.
Get another XFL guy or USFL.
I had a random hatred for Turpin because he returned like 2 returns in the preseason game, and everyone's like, "Oh my god, he's better than Devin Hester," and so I hated him from day one.
That's fair. No one should be talking like Devin Hester like that. That's sacrilege, honestly.
Real.
I want to get your guys' opinion on something that happened before the Colts game during the practices. We had like 3 fights break out during the mixed practices. How do you guys feel about throwing fisticuffs in practice, especially with another team?
Well, I'm glad it was Tev. That was one of them. He was one of them, yeah. Because Fields kept getting hit. And, during practice, you're not supposed to hit the quarterback, right? And Fields kept getting hit, like hitting the ground, and Tev wasn't having it. And I love that. That's why I love Tev so much. He is the type of lineman that will get himself thrown out of a game for his quarterback. And I know some people look at that and they're like, oh, you want him on the field. I don't care. Okay. If you're going to sit there and let your quarterback get hit late and get beat up, and you're not going to do anything about it, I'm going to lose a little respect for you. Like Jermaine Ifedi, right? When Fields would get hit late and Tev would try to do something about it and Ifedi would pull him away or yell at him in front of everybody, I can't stand a guy like that. Tev, he reminds me a lot of Kyle Long in that way. Because I don't know if you guys remember, but Kyle Long's one of his first games was against the Cincinnati Bengals. And Jay Cutler got hit late. And there was a picture out there of Jay kind of standing off to the side and Kyle getting up in some Bengals player's face. And they got the picture of him like mid-yell and the Bengals like this kind of cowering away from him. It's one of my favorite pictures ever. Like, both of them have that mean streak in them that extends from just beating the shit out of you if you're a linebacker or a defensive tackle and into, hey, you put your hands on my quarterback, you were never going to hear the end of it. I'm going to fuck you up if you do it. And I love that. I love that. Now, yeah, fighting during practice isn't great, but if anyone's fighting during practice, I want it to be my offensive lineman standing up for their quarterback.
Fair. I just want to point out that the Bears posted it just on Twitter right now of Justin Fields taking punts right now.
Don't
We
put
are
that in the,
down
don't put that in the air. No.
We are down so bad.
That's going to be, floating around Packers Twitter for a
Oh,
while.
definitely.
As for fighting, though, it doesn't bother me all that much. I don't know if this is a dumb opinion on it, but it happens in literally like every joint practice ever.
Yeah.
Players are ready to hit somebody. You're starting the season, and you're finally able to hit people who aren't your own team. And it's not a game situation where it's gonna like affect you that bad. So you want to punch some people. It happens every year, every single joint practice ever. I'm not gonna look too into it. It's just it is what it is, basically.
Do you guys remember a while back, like years and years ago, when the Bears and Eagles had a joint practice and everybody started fighting? Or no, it might have not been the Eagles. It might have been the Patriots. It was some team that Chris Long played for. But we had a joint practice and everyone started fighting. So Kyle and Chris got together and started doing WWE moves on each other in front of the fans to distract them from the fight going on.
I don't remember that, but
I don't, but that sounds like the greatest thing of all time.
I'm going to look up all these pictures and videos.
It's such a Kyle Long thing, dude. I love, if it's not apparent, I love Kyle Long.
You're wearing his jersey right now, so yeah.
I wore his jersey last week. There's all a Kyle Long love here.
Kyle, if you're hearing this, please come on this podcast. You follow me on TikTok, please.
Fair enough.
Grace, I need you to post that on Twitter.
It's going to be on Twitter.
Good, Kyle Long. I just have random thing. It's not an actual signature, by the way. I just have this picture thing of Kyle Long from my first time in Chicago. So we love Kyle Long.
I'm jealous.
I used to not pay attention to O-linemen, even though I played O-line during Pee Wee, so I didn't know about Kyle Long for the longest time.
He's like the only offensive lineman's jersey I'll probably ever buy, just because not only on the field was he just a badass player, but he's such a chill dude off the field. He was like a Twitch streamer, plays video games all day, just a cool dude. So I was a big Kyle Long guy.
Getting back to the fighting on the field, I personally love it. It means the guys are ready to play, ready to hit, ready to just get into it. And it being against the Colts kind of makes me feel a little bit better about 2006 because it's just a little bit of retribution for what Peyton Manning did to us, even though it's 15 years later at this point. It makes me feel a little bit better. But I personally love it. It just means everyone's ready to fight and go out and play their hearts out. That's just my little bit of opinion. I just want to get you guys' feel. I know that at least that Miller would have loved it. I didn't know if Jarrett was going to be all for it, but
I like it more when we fight the other team than we fight ourselves. Like Martellus Bennett, body slamming Kyle Fuller and trying to choke him out. So
yeah,
we'll take the wins where we can get them.
I mean, I love Martellus Bennett too.
I cannot stand Martellus Bennett. He's one of my least favorite players of all time.
I was following before he went to the Bears. That's why.
Well, whenever he left the Bears, he said the Bear I don't know what the exact quote was, but he was on a podcast or something, and he was like, "The Bears are a bunch of bitches," and so now I cannot stand Martellus Bennett.
Just before we get into talking about actual guys in the game, I want to quickly gauge on a former Bear that something seriously happened with Jimmy Graham.
Mhm.
If you guys didn't see, Jimmy Graham had some type of issue go on. They believe it might have been a seizure. He walked out into traffic. There was a big issue. I really hope the guy's okay. He's been playing football for years and years and years, and currently signed with the Saints, like he was back when he was younger. But honestly, with the situation of this, I really just hope he hangs it up because it's a scary situation. I see these on a day-to-day basis, but like for his own safety and for his family's safety, because we've seen issues with like Aaron Hernandez, sadly, and plenty of other players who have taken their own lives because of CTE and other head injuries that could also make a seizure happen. Bro, he needs to hang it up, and I really hope he does.
Yeah, it's really scary. Like, obviously the Robert Quinn stuff happening last week, and then Jimmy Graham happening this week. It's terrifying, and we could sit here and talk for hours about how the NFL treats concussions and how they treat head injuries, but it's really tough. I agree, though. I hope that's a wake up call for Jimmy. Like, I get it. You don't want to hang it up. You feel like you still have a little bit of gas left in the tank. But if you're doing things like that, putting yourself and, quite frankly, others in harm's way, you gotta do something about it, right? You can't let it go, and it's a tough situation. But he's got to hang it up, man.
Jerry, you got anything to add?
I think you guys pretty much covered most of it. I mean, I'm a big Jimmy Graham fan. Also, he played for the Saints in Louisiana, which is like right next to where I live. So he's kind of like a, local legend per se around where I'm from. So it is kind of, it's really sad to think about stuff like that happening. Cause sometimes we like to just think of athletes as like entertainment, but in reality, they're like actual people with actual problems. And sometimes from their days of playing football come these health issues. And I mean, yeah, like you said, as sad as it is to say it, I do think probably retirement is a good option. It sucks to lose players like that, but like you always got to think about what's better for your personal health, mental health, and all of that over, playing a sport, I guess.
Yeah.
Let's go on to like a lot happier topics, a lot more positive topics.
Well, I want to correct myself real quick. The Kyle Long, Chris Long thing, I was wrong. They didn't do WWE moves on each other. It ended up being where during a game there was a fumble. Kyle Long went after somebody because he was on top of one of his teammates and started throwing elbows at him. And then Chris had to pop in and be like, "All right, buddy, we're not going to do this." And he had to pull him out of the pile. So instead of it being haha funny, it was Kyle Long being the lovable hothead that he is. And and Chris Long having to be like, "Okay, we're not going to do this today." But I thought it was funny. I was looking at it, and it turns out the whole play started with my man, Tony Fiametta, fumbling the ball. Former Bears fullback. Gotta love him. But and also Robert Quinn was involved in that, believe it or not, back when he was on the Rams. He was the one who it was it wasn't even during practice, it was during a game that this happened. So Kyle Long got penalized, like 15-yard penalty for, unsportsmanlike conduct or whatever, but he didn't get thrown out of the game, which is funny because apparently earlier that season he had already gotten thrown out of the game for punching somebody. Dude, I love Kyle Long. Like, if there's going to be a player on your team that is, for lack of better words, a total meathead and throwing punches at people, I want it to be my guard. I want it to be somebody that's there to fuck up a defender for my quarterback. Like, I love it. I love Kyle Long. He is, I say it all the time, he's my favorite player ever.
Yeah. I mean,
I want to meet that man.
Probably can't. Isn't he? I supposed to say he's probably in the Chicago area, but you're not in Chicago. So
he follows you on TikTok.
He followed me on TikTok, and I've talked to him in Twitter DMs before, but nothing ever materialized because he was going to come on my old podcast, and then he had a kid. And
good reason
that. Yeah. Well, no, we were talking about it. And he was like, "Hey, are you guys free at like 11 a.m. on Friday?" And I was like, "No, we both have class, unfortunately." He was like, "Well, I'm gonna have a kid this weekend, so let me hit you up after I have the kid." And I was like, "Okay." And then he didn't for a while, and I was like, "You know what? he has a kid. I'm not going to bother him 2-3 months after he just had a kid. And then I just never got around to trying to DM him again. I probably should. But
he's usually pretty good about responding to things. He didn't respond to mine, but so whenever this is gonna sound like the most bizarre story ever for it was random. Yes, I understand. But I think it was my junior year. It was either junior year or senior year of high school. Me and my buddy, who he doesn't watch sports at all, so he didn't even know who Kyle Long was. We were sitting in like theater class or whatnot. We got to thinking, we're like, so like we use like body wash in the shower and then like shampoo for our hair. We're like, well, what do bald people do? And I was like, okay, well, who's a bald person we could ask? And we thought of like our basketball coach that year was bald. I'm like, oh, the Bears have this offensive lineman named Kyle Long. He's a super cool dude and he's bald. We should ask him. So we both separately DM'd him. He didn't respond to mine, but he responded to my buddies. And he was like, he just said like shampoo everywhere, lol. And then he screenshotted that DM and then posted it on his Twitter. Like making fun of my friend, so that's always a fun thing.
Yeah, no, it's funny you bring that up because the number one thing I want to ask Kyle Long is how he maintains his beard. I want to know Kyle Long's beard care routine so I can copy it, because his beard is something I aspire to have. Mine's a little more wild and unkempt than his is. But yeah, see, I was talking to him in DMs, not because I DM'd him, but he actually DM'd me because I had posted on Twitter. No, I posted on Twitter. My mom's real big into manifesting, right? So I was like, you know what? My mom's big into manifesting, so let me manifest my dream podcast guests, right? And I tagged all of them, and Kyle Long was one of them. And he DM'd me, and he was like, hey, man, let me come on your podcast so we can come talk about manifesting. And I was like, you know what, Bet? I want to talk to Kyle Long not about football. I want to talk to him about spirituality. I want to talk to him about manifesting. I want to talk to him about, because another thing I want to learn from him, that is the most confident man I have ever seen, right? As a dude who was a little bit bigger when he was playing football, myself being a bigger dude, his confidence is off the charts. Like, and not like in an ego way, like he's an asshole type of way, but like, he's comfortable in his own skin. At least he projects that way. So I wanted to ask him, I wanted like manhood advice from Kyle Long. And that's what I wanted to talk to him about. But like I said, that got kind of put to the side because of him having a kid, which, as Grayson said, totally understandable reason to not come on some college kids podcast. I don't blame him.
I mean, if you're manifesting, sadly, as a man, you kind of have to be confident in yourself and in your manhood at the same time. So, I mean, makes sense.
But yeah, Kyle Long, like when he's like a hero to me. Like not just he's my favorite player ever, but he's like one of my heroes. I want to be like Kyle Long when I grow up.
Listen, just go play guard for the Bears, and that's your first step. And then.
Well, fuck, I'm way behind on that.
No, you're not though. Let's just segue into it. Teven Jenkins is now injured and probably out for the first month of the regular season. So we need a guard that can fill in, and it looks like it's not going to be Carter, at least.
At least not right this second, just because he's filling in for Nate Davis. But I would imagine once Nate Davis is good to go, which thankfully we know it's not he's hard to work with thing. I say thankfully, even though it's some personal stuff. I hope everything's okay. I don't mean thankfully for him. I just mean thankfully for the sake of he's not an asshole. He's just, dealing with things, which is a totally valid reason to be doing what he's been doing. So I'm hoping once he's healthy, or not healthy, but once he's on the field in full, they will let Carter take snaps on the other side, because I don't want Alex Leatherwood. I don't want Lucas Patrick. I want Ja'Tyre Carter. Or Cody Whitehair.
I'm glad Davis was in pads this last week, so
okay.
I think so.
I don't want I want Cody Whitehair starting, but not at guard. I want him to stay at center, because I know at practice today they had Whitehair at guard and then Patrick at center, and I'm like, that's dumb. Because when Jenkins gets back, Whitehair would just move back to center, and I don't want him to have to keep moving. Just stay in one spot. I feel like makes a lot more sense for the the fluidity of the team, I guess.
I get you. Yeah, and this is going to sound really bad, but I promise it makes sense. I hope it is a real injury with Tev, and it's not this bullshit that people are trying to spew with, oh, the Bears are lying because they want to trade him and they want to keep him off the field. I hope it's not that. I don't think it is, but I really hope it's not that, because that would be such a bad look for the team. And also, if we trade Tev, we're morons.
I don't think that. I think the Bears would care more about protecting, because Teven Jenkins is a very good offensive lineman. He proved that last year. I think it makes.
Yeah, I think where that's coming from, though, is all the rumors from last offseason kind of recirculating. Because coming out of nowhere and being like, hey, by the way, this guy pulled both of his calves is kind of like, did he? Because that's kind of fishy, and like, I get that, but also he's a big boy. Okay. He's got a lot of weight to support. So I'm not calling Tev fat. His fat percentage on his body is probably much lower than my own. The point is, like, he's a big dude. He's doing a lot of moving as well. So, like, it's not the most unrealistic thing in the world. Plus, that just sounds really unlucky. Both legs.
I mean, Vince McMahon tore both his quads trying to get into a ring. So I don't think it's out of... Like
Vince McMahon is not someone I care about.
No one should. The man is terrible. But I'm saying that it's not the possibility that the man can tear his quads at the same time. It happens. Jared? On the Teven Jenkins injury? Not the Vince McMahon tearing both his quads. How do you feel about it?
I mean, I kind of agree with David. I would, before you got here, I was kind of talking to Grayson about this. I actually don't want Ja'Tyre Carter at left guard. I like him staying at right guard. I am not someone who's played offensive line who knows how easy it is to switch from, from hypothetically from right guard to left guard. But I have heard from, like insiders and reporters and stuff that said that it's not just like as easy as just switching positions.
That's one of those one of those things that kind of varies from player to player. Like there's some guys like Dylan Parham on the Raiders, where you put him on the left side, he lets up 15 pressures in a game. You put him on the right side, he lets up 2 pressures in 4 games. Like some guys are ambidextrous, so to speak, as a lineman. Others aren't. Like Nate Davis isn't. He's played right guard his whole career. He's going to stay at right guard. Whereas Tev, he's switching from right to left. And I thought when he was on the field, looked like he hadn't skipped a beat. So I don't know about Carter. I don't know if we've seen him play left guard. At least I can't think of a time we've seen him play left guard. But I'd at least like to try it, because I think you want to have your best 5 on the field.
I do agree with that. And I think he's better than Patrick, which I mean, Lucas Patrick, when we got him last offseason, I know he was one of our big signings per se, but given
a good Band-Aid,
we had 3 nickels of cap space, so our big signings weren't really big signings. And I know he's a good locker room guy. He's a big goofball, which is always fun to have on the offensive line. But
he's one of the Smash Bros.
He didn't really, give me confidence in his actual football ability at all last year. I know he missed a lot of time, which makes it a lot harder to transition to a new team. But he missed a lot of time, and when he did play, he was pretty atrocious in every spot he played. So he's not someone I would like to see. If Carter can play left guard, more than happy to see that happen. Grayson had suggested, Dalton Risner, who that could also be a good Band-Aid option. I think regardless of what we do, it's obviously going to be a downgrade from Teven Jenkins, who I hate PFF, but even PFF had him as a top 3 guard last year. And from watching the games with my own eyes, Teven Jenkins was a very good offensive lineman last year. He was him and Braxton Jones were the only competent ones for most of the season. So luckily it's only 3 weeks, so it's not a huge chunk of time. But I think probably Carter is the best way to go if he can play that side. If not, it's probably going to be Lucas Patrick, because he has the familiarity with the offense.
Yeah,
I like Doug Kramer, so I think moving Cody over to guard and having Doug Kramer take snaps at center could be also a good opportunity, rather than just having Carter fill in if Carter is unavailable to be on the left side. Because if he can't play left, or because he's more right guard, that's perfectly fine. I mean, we just move Cody over there. Cody is Cody. So it's a good Band-Aid for that time being. Well, Tim's out.
Yeah. Hey, I just want to say something real quick, completely unrelated. Did you guys hear about the NBA's Twitter account getting hacked?
No, what happened?
Or not Twitter, their Facebook. So wasn't really hacked.
Oh,
It was
I saw
somewhat.
that.
It was one of their social media interns was still logged into the account, and they said, "I don't know how to log out of this, but I haven't worked here in weeks. Anyway, the NBA overextends its social media employees greatly to the detriment of their health and social lives for a salary of less than $50K annually after taxes. I worked 14-hour shifts without breaks at times. Shout out to Adam Silver for that one. We don't get health insurance until 90 days on the job. That's silly, isn't it? Glad I resigned. No need for a job to get in the way of your happiness and then donate to mental health causes." I just wanted to bring that up because men's mental health matters. Athletes' mental health matters. Mental health matters. Go donate to mental health causes if you have extra money.
And I've always held the opinion when it comes to like of jobs and stuff like that, and being an athlete is a job, so this is still like part of it. But like, never prioritize the job over your mental health. I do it all the time. It's terrible. I definitely should stop doing it. But yeah, never do a job that's gonna just kill your mental health. That's no.
This might be a dumb thing to take away from that entire, paragraph, but the whole like not getting health insurance for 90 days, is that not a normal thing?
It's usually the 30.
Oh, well, that's
I've
not
never
how it
worked
is
a real
around
job,
where I
so I don't
live.
know.
It's usually after 30.
Ours, like my girlfriend doesn't get it for 90 days. At the like working at the refineries, which is where like every 90% of the population works around here. So
Like I said, I've never worked a real job, so I
That
have
sounds
no
like
idea.
a Texas thing. It might be just an Illinois law here.
It
But
might be a Texas thing. I wait tables, so I don't get health insurance.
all right. I have a few, you guys told me some guys you want to talk about, and more importantly, just spotlight some guys. I know Miller, you want to talk about Trevon Dexter, as you have been talking about for the last however many weeks, and especially last week as well. But
Yeah.
what do you want to talk about Trevon Dexter? 'Cause I
No,
did not see this man.
Yeah, so he didn't pop up on the stat sheet, I don't think. He might have had one or two tackles.
Mhm.
But like the big thing for me was obviously the get off is the concern with Dexter, right? Because if he learns how to get off the ball correctly, you have someone who has the potential to be like this defense's DeForest Buckner. If not, you have a guy that you cannot roster in the NFL and be a serious football team. And last week, he was showing flashes of being able to get off the ball and, get into the backfield and make plays. This week, it was a lot more consistent. In fact, the first play of the game, it was a run up the middle, and Dexter flew into the backfield. Did he make the play? No. But that's not what I care about. I care about the fact that he got off the snap and was in the backfield before the guard he was lined up across from even stood up.
Mhm.
Like, that's the type of shit I want to see from this guy, because if he can master his get off, once he gets that, then he can start worrying about his pass rushing tool belt and all the technical stuff, right?
Mhm.
This is like fundamental football. This is the number one thing you need as a defensive tackle. And when you've got someone like Zach Pickens next to you, who is a Ferrari of a defensive tackle when it comes to getting off the ball, you are extra spotlighted. You really need to get off the ball, because if we have formations where these two are playing DT and are getting off the ball that quickly, oh my God, we are going to give interior offensive lines fits. Guards and centers are going to rue the day they go up against the Chicago Bears, because Trevon Dexter and Zach Pickens together, if Dexter gets this figured out, can be an insane tandem. So Dexter was getting off. Granted, the two of them, I think, played a quarter. But if Dexter continues to get off the ball at least a reasonable time, I'm not asking him to be the Flash, but if he's getting off the ball at a reasonable pace, and then every once in a while he has that play where he fires off into the backfield, that is huge. That is so big for this team. There was a play where he almost had a sack. He had a guy the quarterback grabbed by the shoulder and he kind of broke out of it. Plays like that make me so happy. I want Dexter to be so good. I want to be so wrong about this guy that I am getting flamed in my Instagram DMs, my Twitter DMs, my YouTube comments, my TikTok comments. I want people to make fun of me over Dexter the way people made fun of Brett Coleman over Justin Herbert. I want this guy to be Himothy. And if he figures out how to get off the goddamn ball, he is a hell of a lot closer to that. Like Dexter with normal get off would have been a top 3 defensive tackle in this class. But because he didn't, I don't think he made my top 10. So it's really tough.
Yeah, I watched your reaction not too long ago because I was bored at work, and just the face you made when Trevon Dexter got picked and was just utter defeat.
To be fair, a lot of that too was just me sad we didn't take Atabare.
True.
And I was like, oh no, he's gonna go like 3 picks from now. I was more upset about that than I was about Dexter. And then after I got over the upset about Atabari, it was like, oh no, he doesn't know how to get off the ball. And then I found out it was the whole mirroring offensive lineman thing, which I still don't understand. Dumbest coaching decision ever, if true. But he's a lot closer to being an NFL defensive tackle now. And that makes me happy.
He's developing nicely over the last 2 games. Jared, do you have any thoughts about Javon Dexter's last game or just overall the preseason so far?
I'm a big fan of his. I just think that like his strengths are, for one, his strength. Like, dude is a strong man.
Mm-hmm.
I would have liked to see him kind of maybe get that sack again. Not a huge deal. It's preseason. It'll come. I'm not going to nitpick little things like that. So overall, I've enjoyed what I've seen so far. And like David mentioned, you can see even within just like from last game to this game, the improvement is quite noticeable, which is always a good thing to see in your young rookies.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of rookie D tackles, you guys want to hear a funny story?
Sure.
So I was talking about my boy Tyler earlier, and he actually got to interview Zach Pickens before the NFL draft as well. And Zach Pickens is one of his favorite guys coming out of this class. And it's really funny because when he was interviewing him, Zach Pickens forgot what college he went to. So he was like, back when I was playing at Clemson, I mean, South Carolina, and then continued on with whatever his story was. And I don't know how I feel about that. Like, words are hard. He probably just stumbled over his words, but then there's that little voice in the back of my head because you have to be hypercritical of rookies. It's like, he doesn't know what college he went to. I just thought that was funny.
To be fair, it's probably not even the dumbest answer to a question that's been asked by a reporter from these rookies. I mean, we have a Cold Stroud saying some stupid things. Moving over to Jared's more spotlight that he told me was D'Anthony Jones, who I typed in D'Anthony Thomas like 4 times into the Google search when I was looking him up. So, what's going on with D'Anthony Jones? Because I've never seen this man.
That's the Houston kid, right?
Yeah, David made a reaction to that, and I hope that was a good reaction. Yeah, he's from the U of H.
I'm excited about him. I wasn't paying attention.
He was one of my under the radar possible, making the roster for an undrafted free agent. So his big deal, like going into the draft was he was really productive in college. When I say really productive, if I'm not mistaken, he was like the lead. He led all of college football in sacks, or it was at least really close to it. Like, he was an insane player in college, but the reason he didn't get drafted was his lack of athleticism.
He's just a thick boy as a defensive end.
Yeah, he's kind of like I think of him kind of like a hybrid where he could do both because he's a large dude for a defensive end.
He's a bowling ball.
Yeah, he's a big dude, but he lacks like the athleticism of the guys you draft to develop into something. But I didn't see him as much in the first preseason game, but in this one he really stood out to me. Again, same thing as like Dexter. I don't think he really showed up on the stat sheet very much. But if you watch him specifically, which I know I did because I'm a big fan of his, he looked really, really good. Like, there was one play where he was at defensive end, and he soon as the ball was snapped, like the left tackle barely got an arm on him, and he got into the backfield. Like, it was multiple plays like that throughout the entire game. It stood out to me a lot. I love defensive linemen, and I know we have so many potential young defensive linemen who could make the roster. I really hope he's one of the ones who do make it. I know it's not it's kind of a long shot just because of how many defensive linemen we do have, but I really, really hope he does make the roster. I think he could be a developmental kind of rotational piece on our defensive line. Like I said, I think he could be, a hybrid with the defensive tackle, defensive end, kind of like a DeMarcus Walker is supposed to be for us. And I'm really, really hoping he makes the team.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the very least he can be a practice squad guy. I always forgot we had him because I remember it was a big deal when we signed him. because of his Twitter bio, which is like, I hate quarterbacks or something.
Oh,
And
that
everyone was
guy.
like, oh my God, he's the future. He's him. And I was like, I mean, that's cool and all. But like, why didn't you get drafted? You know, like that was my thing. Because I haven't watched any of his college tape. I have no idea what he was in college. I just remember you were 63, right? As a defensive end, which is gross. But I remember I saw him coming around the edge against the Colts, and I was like, holy shit, that boy thick. Like, as a defensive end, he's respectfully, he kind of built like a bowling ball, which is good. But no, I hope he makes the roster. He seems fun. If he makes the roster, he's got to change his number. But like, he shared the defensive line with current Jaguars fullback Derek Parrish. Like, I'm all for it.
He's a super talented dude, and he was super productive. It's literally just lack of athleticism was his kryptonite for getting drafted.
Mm-hmm. Which is interesting because you usually see guys like that still get drafted. Like, if it's just a lack of athleticism, that's still someone you take a swing on like day 3 as a rotational guy, like you said.
I think most people expected him to be. I'm not a professional scout, so there might be something
like
I'm
I said,
missing.
I'd never heard, me personally, and I'm not acting like if I've never heard of the guy, he sucks. Like, just me personally, I hadn't heard of him before. But if that's the case, then like I'll take that. That sounds like a steal of a UDFA.
I always really like U of H players it's like a relatively close college to me. I don't know, but I always like players from there, like Tank Dell and whatnot. So
yeah,
gotta support the local kids.
I mean, you threw me onto an NIU guy, I'm gonna like him. So I think that everyone has their one college that like he's from there. I'm gonna like him. So I know Miller's a big UNC person, so that's probably why he likes Mitch so much.
I have a few because I have like UT was my favorite college as a kid. My mom was Notre Dame, so they have a special place in my heart. And then U of H, as of recently, have just been producing NFL talent for no reason, and I'm like, hey, why not?
Yeah, see, for me, it's UNC because basketball. That's my favorite college basketball team. Wisconsin because they always produce good fullbacks, and also their defenders are always insane. And then North Dakota State. I'm always a fan of those guys coming out, especially this past year. Fan? I liked Trey Lance. I don't know how I feel about Trey Lance now.
It's a whole different topic.
Yeah.
I mean, kind of.
Oh, and NIU. And NIU.
I love NIU. The Huskies. Let's go.
Yeah.
And let's kind of just shuffle over back to the last spotlight, at least, unless you guys have any more that I have written down, is Roschon Johnson. I know we talk about him all the time.
He's just him.
Yeah, bro was everywhere on that field. The only person that outran him was Miller's favorite. I forgot his name. 2 seconds.
Robert Burns.
Thank you, Robert Burns, who also averaged more than him, but also had one more rush than him.
He was playing against the third stringers. He had more carries. Let me think. What else was going on? He was running at the end of the game. You know, it wasn't. It makes sense.
And like we just said, like Roschon Johnson, maybe not as big on the stat sheet as Robert Burns, but like, bro is him. Bro was all over. The eye test was off the charts. Like, I legitimately think that I know that we don't, like I said earlier in the episode, RB1 is not going to be on our depth chart as like an official type thing, but if we move forward and we have a star running back going forward, it's not going to be Khalil. It's not going to be Foreman. It's going to be Roschon Johnson. And I don't think there's any, after last game, I don't think there's any like doubt in my mind for that.
I mean, I can still see a world where Khalil ends up being the guy, but no, I think it'll be Roschon. Roschon's a more well-rounded player. He gives me heavy, like, I said this after last game, kind of joking, but I do stand by it. He reminds me of a better David Montgomery. Like, and I know some people look at that as kind of an insult because I know a lot of people didn't like Monty, but Monty was a complete back. He just wasn't efficient. Roschon is like if Monty was bigger, stronger, a little bit quicker, had better hands, and was more efficient. Like he is apex. Monty's apex is Roschon Johnson. Like that's his floor. I think Roschon can be awesome. I know he was RB2 at Texas. He was only RB2 because he wanted to stick around for the sake of his teammates. He could have went to another college. He could have been fantastic. I know there's a lot of Illinois fans and Bears fans, like there's a lot of overlap there. If you gave Roschon Chase Johnson's role, or Chase Johnson, yeah.
Wow.
If you give Roschon Chase Brown's role at Illinois last year, he's a Heisman candidate.
Mhm.
Like he's better than Chase Brown was. And people go crazy over Chase Brown. Not to say Chase sucked. He was really good. Roschon's just better. Roschon, pound for pound, talent-wise, was probably a top 3 or 4 back in this class. I had him at RB5 just because he was a backup, but like he's awesome. He does everything. The only thing he doesn't have is like a second gear, and honestly, you don't need a second gear to be a good running back. Like look at all the best running backs in NFL history. Emmitt Smith didn't have a second gear. Guys like Thurman Thomas didn't have a second gear. Jim Brown didn't have a second gear. You can go Derrick Henry. Well, Derrick Henry kind of has a second gear, but his first gear is also a little bit lower than some other guys. So like, my point is there's been a lot of guys that have survived and done that without it. And I'm not saying Roschon's going to be Emmitt Smith or anything, but he can be damn good without it, especially if this offensive line is good, if this passing game is good. He's got Herbert to kind of, play off of the thunder and lightning thing going on. The backfield's going to be great. All that being said, Bears are not trading for Jonathan Taylor. Please stop saying that. It's not going to happen. We are not giving up a first-round pick. I saw Destin Adams, who follows me. He's a Bears or a Colts beat writer. The Bears are not trading a first-round pick and a young running back for Jonathan Taylor. Please stop that. It's not going to happen. Go away and send Jonathan Taylor elsewhere or suffer with him. I don't care. He's just not a Bear. That's not a slight at Jonathan Taylor. He's a great football player. I'm just not giving up assets for a running back when we have the running back room we currently have. It would be a complete and utter waste. Plus Roschon better.
I love Roschon. That's the local kid,
Yeah.
I feel weird when I say kid when they're like my age, but it is.
I say kid when they're older than me, so
also fair.
We only have one Chicago athlete right now we can call a kid, and that's Connor Bedard. So, but we don't watch hockey. I don't think any of us have watched hockey, at least in recent years.
I know of him because go Chicago sports.
yeah.
Also, another name that I haven't mentioned that I feel like needs some recognition is someone who I mentioned who had a really good game last week as well is Terrell Lewis, the edge rusher.
Baby Mac.
He is definitely he's making this roster, and he's probably going to get quite a bit of playing time. He's been tremendous. I mean, given to stand out on our defensive line doesn't take much because our defensive line is full of like the bottom, 8 guys in the league basically. But Terrell Lewis has been really, really good. He had, I think through 2 games, he has 3 sacks and a forced fumble or something insane like that. Like, dude is balling out, and I think he deserves some playing time.
Oh yeah, and I was gonna say that when we were talking about oh my god, I was supposed to say Thomas again. Why can I not remember his name? I just wrote it down too.
Anthony Thomas.
Thank you,
No, not
Anthony Jones.
Thomas.
That's what I'm saying. Anthony Thomas.
Anthony Thomas was a running back or a receiver. He was a receiver that returned
kicks. He was like a running back receiver hybrid from Oregon, huh? That's what we're talking
about.
Yeah.
He was a hybrid. Now he was a return specialist. Is really what he was.
Anthony Jones, respect his name.
I will learn his name now. But
there's too many DeAnthonys. Okay.
Okay.
Too many Joneses on this team.
2 DeAnthonys is too many.
We have 3 Jones. So
not enough Jones is too many DeAnthonys.
But we have so many rotational guys right now. We have Rasheem Green, we have DeMarcus Walker, we have Yannick, we got Javon Dexter, we have Zach Pickens, we have Justin Jones. We have a bunch of guys on this line. And Terrell Lewis. I don't know who the odd man is out, and I think
Dominic
it might be
Robinson's there too.
Dominic. I think he might be the odd man out as well.
I don't think Robinson has a chance of getting cut. If that'd be a dumb pick to have picked him because he wasn't meant to be like I don't know what the word is.
He was
productive.
Developmental.
He wasn't meant to be productive right away.
He played a year of, I think, if even a year of defensive end after playing wide receiver most of his career.
He was
was
in the indie game, so I don't know if they're that very high in him. I don't know if we're going to keep 21 fucking defensive.
No, you keep 4. You keep 4 defensive ends. You keep Yannick. You keep Travis. You keep Terrell Lewis, and you keep Dominique Robinson. You keep DeMarcus Walker because he's technically like a tweener D end DT, and you cut Rasheem Green because he hasn't done anything. He hasn't looked good. He's getting outplayed, and you let DeAnthony Jones go to the practice squad.
That's fair enough, I guess.
David for GM.
Assistant GM.
Well, I mean, 20 minutes ago, or not 20 minutes ago, God, an hour and a half ago when I was recording my Commanders video, I solved the Washington Commanders offensive skill positions in 20 seconds. So clearly somebody needs to hire me somewhere.
Trading one of the elite defensive linemen they have because they have too many and can't pay them all.
I know, it was just their offensive skill positions we were talking about.
I mean, I feel like they're pretty solid at everything. I mean,
I know, but you got to get Antonio Gibson out of the backfield, man.
That's awesome. I just really like their receiving core. I'm a big Jahan Dotson guy. And then Terry McLaurin is enough said. He is what he is. He's like that towards that elite tier wide receiver.
What
are we?
Velus might not get cut.
What just happened? Did they just cut?
No, Richard Hightower said today, who's special teams coach, that Velus Jones Jr. is one of the best kickoff returners in the NFL. Everybody knows that. His stats say that as well.
I mean, that's not wrong.
He's not. No, Velus is a good kick returner,
but I don't think
not
you can,
a punt returner.
I don't think you could make a roster off of being good at just kick returns. I don't.
No. Tevin Hester took punt returns, and
Cordero Patterson did it for a little while.
Yeah.
Josh Cribbs did it.
I guess that is.
But those guys are like the greats of like return men.
Well,
so.
Maybe Velus Jones can be a great kick returner and do literally nothing else.
As a kick returner, Velus can be great. That's the thing. It's just the
really
inconsistency that worries me.
Yeah, are we really going to keep him when he can't take punts either? Do we have the roster spot for that? We don't.
I don't know, man. That's not my job. I don't know.
One last thing I want to touch on before we end this episode. There was an unsubstantiated claim recently with Stephon Diggs wanting out of Buffalo.
He already disproved that.
I understand that, but there's also an unsubstantiated claim that he wanted to go to the Cowboys where his brother is. It makes sense. The Bears and the 49ers. So where did that come from? I feel like that came from when he had that little diva thing for like 2 days at the beginning of training camp.
Mm-hmm. And he literally came out like, I saw that tweet too. And like 2 hours after I saw that tweet, he made another tweet and was like, I don't want to leave. I'm chilling.
That could also just be him making saving face for now.
I will trade them Velus Jones and a 5th round pick, and that
take it or leave it. No, unironically, if Diggs becomes available, give him a 1st round pick and Mooney, and I'm not thinking twice about it, but it's not going to happen.
Listen, I love Mooney too, but if we could get Diggs, that'd be insane.
A world where DJ Moore's wide receiver
Give him
too is the world I want to live in.
Imagine going from Dante Pettis and Nasiba Webster to DJ Moore and Stephon Diggs.
That would be heaven, I think.
Wide receiver or receiving options 2 and 3 behind Cole Kmet, honestly.
If that happens, honestly, I'm going to start pushing the agenda that Justin Fields is better than Josh Allen. Because if he doesn't want to stay with Josh Allen, he goes to Justin Fields.
Former Packers receiver James Jones is pushing the agenda that Justin Fields is more talented than Jalen Hurts.
He's not been on my valid Packers list. I have a list of Packers I'm okay with supporting.
But what he means by it, which I think is actually very fair, is he's not better than Jalen Hurts, but he has the potential to be because of his talent of being bigger, faster, stronger.
Yeah, people don't realize he's not talking about skill. He's talking about physical ability. Mm-hmm. That's the thing. And I think that, it might be a wording thing because people see talent and they assume that means everything that encompasses your game. He's talking about from a physical standpoint. Fields is more athletic. Fields has a stronger arm. If he can get the mental stuff down, he can be better than Hurts. Hurts is better now because he has got this locked down, right? Mm-hmm. Hurts got all this. You can't see it. All this figured out. Hurts is the better quarterback, but his arm isn't as strong as Justin's. He's not as fast as Justin. He's not as agile as Justin. He's not as strong as Justin. Although I don't know, them lower leg or his legs might be stronger than Justin's just because of all the leaping he does on QB sneaks. But
bro does 60-pound squats.
Have you ever seen him squat from
that's what I mean. Yeah. But I mean, other than that, Fields is more physically gifted than Hurts.
I'm just happy he made Shady McCoy look dumb. I loved LaShawn
I
McCoy
can make
as a
Shady McCoy
player.
look dumb, dude. It's
But
not hard.
as a reporter, analyst, whatever you want to call him, I hate him so much. He's dumb and he doesn't have actual takes. He just says things. It's like Kendrick Perkins of the NFL, and it's ridiculous.
That's disrespectful to Kendrick Perkins.
Kendrick Perkins
made some
actually,
wild
my
claims.
best
my
friend's
point.
dad arrested Kendrick Perkins one time, which is funny. Kendrick Perkins is from my area too, by the way.
Let's go.
He was drunk in a bar and was like trying to fight people, so my best friend's dad had to
Imagine
arrest him.
Kendrick Perkins trying to throw hands with you, like, bro,
Yeah, you know,
sit
giants. Well, he's huge. He's like
down.
7
Go
feet.
back to your French fries, big fella.
But, anyways, but like there was like the thing with like the Cowboys training camp where LaShawn McCoy was like talking shit on someone on the Cowboys. It may have been Dak or something. He was talking shit on the Cowboys training camp, and they're like, "Have you actually been?" He's like, "Oh yeah, fine, I'll go." He goes to training camp, takes pictures, and leaves before practice actually starts, and he gets caught doing it. Like, dude just says words. He doesn't actually report on or make like intelligent opinions on anything.
This is why I have no respect for anyone who says, well, he played in the NFL, so he knows more than you, or he coached in the NFL or whatever. Just because someone has more experience than someone does not mean they're automatically right.
The only time I ever say this when you're playing against someone, like when like people are like NBA players, like Kobe was the hardest to play with. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna take your word at it because you had to guard that man, and that's the only time I ever take it into account.
But see, even then, it's kind of iffy. Like, and this goes back to the whole top 100 argument too. Like, some guys will have better games than others against people. Like, you ask anyone on the Miami Dolphins defense what it's like going against Justin Fields, they're going to say it is hell. You ask anybody on the Cleveland Browns defense what it's like going against Justin Fields, they're going to be like, oh, he's a pushover. He didn't do jack shit. Like, it's different, you know? But like, I get what you're saying to a certain extent. Like, if it's one of the premier guys, like if Jalen Ramsey's talking about the hardest receivers to guard, I might be like, okay. Or if Nick Bosa is talking about the hardest left tackles to get to beat, I might be like, okay. But if it's Shady McCoy, who, you know, isn't playing anymore, talking about something, I'm going to question it.
That's why.
Or if it's like Kirk Cousins talking about the best running backs in the league, I mean, I might be like, well, hold on now. You know, you're allowed to question authority, people.
Yeah.
That is a good thing. We do not advocate for bootlicking here on this podcast. Please question authority. Sorry, I'm not telling you to be like I'm not telling you to overthrow the government or anything, but like, just don't take takes from former athletes and honestly some current athletes at face value. Do not assume they are truth unless it's someone you know for a fact knows what they're talking about and has backed it up and has had, you know, numerous good takes.
I just feel like that's such a big thing on like sports talk shows nowadays, like your LaShawn McCoys, Kendrick Perkins,
Richard Sherman.
I don't think I've ever seen Richard Sherman on do a debate before, but like
I think it's crazy that he's got a job or got the the skip right now on First Take.
I don't like
or
Skip
whatever
Bayless either. I don't like him.
Skip Bayless is a racist moron.
I didn't really like him or like Shannon Sharp. Shannon was better than Skip in my opinion.
Shannon's funny.
But,
I like Shannon because he's funny, but Shannon has his moments where he is wrong.
I feel like they just like it's what sports like when I was a kid, SportsCenter was just like, you know, like people talking about sports and having opinions and blah, blah, blah. Nowadays, it's just screaming matches about the dumbest of crap that literally doesn't matter or having the worst takes. But like, if I scream louder than you, that makes my take right. And that's all it is. I literally can't watch like sports talk shows anymore for that.
Sports talk shows are just how do I put this? They are a high budget version of the Austin Hooper versus Mo Alley Cox. That is what current sports talk shows are. That's all.
Are we technically a sports talk show? Or are we just dissing?
I mean, like mainstream, like ESPN, FS1, all that good stuff.
I just want one of anything we say on this podcast to turn into the Austin Hooper versus Mo Alley Cox. Get just that kind of publicity for a dumb take. It's all I need.
No, my dream is to one day have a player on here and have them break news and have Daniel Greenberg tweet out something and then at Bear Down Boys. Like that would be so cool.
Okay,
like we have listen, okay.
How long comes back to the NFL?
No, this is a little bit of insider info. We were trying to get Kari to come on Run the North.
Yes.
And I really wanted it to be before he signed his extension because I wanted to be like, hey, any word on what's going on? Like, obviously he wouldn't be able to tell me anything, but part of me was like, maybe he could give me some hope. But no, that's my I don't want to go famous for saying or go viral or whatever for saying something dumb. I want to go viral for breaking news. I think that would be a lot cooler.
We could do both one episode.
We have Justin Fields on right before he signs his monster extension to be the highest paid quarterback in football. We have him debate between Benny Cunningham and Jeremy Langford.
Respect
And then
Jeremy Langford, Chicago.
No, because he's not good.
He had like those 3
Listen.
games where I thought he was going to be elite.
Hey, listen, fun fact to every Bears fan out there. Every running back we had between Matt Forte and David Montgomery sucked.
Jordan Howard was
Jordan Howard sucked.
Mediocre.
He was not
Damn
good.
right.
Jordan Howard was
Wait.
an temp
Whoa,
merchant
wait.
and a good offensive line
Hold
merchant.
up. Where is the respect to Tariq Cohen?
He
He
was
was
really
not a good
back.
running back.
He was a gadget man guy.
Yeah.
Dude thing.
Tariq Hobart. Yep, that's the name. Tariq Cohen. I tried to say Jordan Howard and Tariq Cohen at the same time. Tariq Cohen, in my mind, is a lot closer to like an Isaiah McKenzie than he is a real running back.
He's better than
He was a gadget guy. All the cool things he did were on punt returns, on screen passes, and on like digs. Like he
one
or
time
not
he got
digs.
made
Like
fun of.
what is it?
The one time you got made fun of, that was cool. I liked
yeah.
on primetime TV.
But he's not good as a running back.
Listen,
Jordan Howard was not good. Benny Cunningham was not
gonna
good.
DM
let
Cohen
my
in.
childhood
Send that clip.
nostalgia live. Okay.
I have nostalgia for him too. I hyped up Jordan Howard as the next big thing. He wasn't that good.
Man did not fumble. He okay, that's about it. He didn't really fumble and he was all right, but I like
He
Jordan
was
Howard.
slow. He couldn't
He
catch.
was
His
incredibly. He
vision
was like the
wasn't good.
slowest like starting running back in NFL history. Bro,
He got like 1 billion attempts because we had Josh McCown at quarterback.
Mike Glennon.
No, it was before Glennon.
He was there for
2016.
Glennon too.
I'm talking about the year he was second in the league in rushing. I think it was Josh
That was
McCown at
2016,
quarterback.
yeah.
So either way, he had no quarterback and a good offensive line, so they said, "Fuck it, let's run the ball every play."
Because that year, 2 of the top like 3 in rushing yards were rookies because it was him.
It was
and
1
Zeke.
and 2. Zeke was 1. Jordan Howard
He was 2.
Yeah,
I didn't realize he got a 2. Jeez. Okay.
From what I'm reading, Matt Barkley started most of the year.
point proven.
The Buffalo Bills punter Matt Barkley.
Yeah,
Bro, wasn't
Point
punter for the game.
I really like Matt Barkley. I don't know why. He was awful with us, but we love Matt Barkley, which is bizarre. He was supposed to be like the number 1 or number 2 pick in the draft, and then like his senior year in college was just that god awful that he slid, and then I think it was also injury problems, and then he never did anything ever again. And that's
Well, he went to USC,
really
right?
Yeah, he went to USC.
That's just USC quarterbacks.
That's also fair.
Yeah.
Where is the hate that USC quarterbacks get that like Ohio State quarterbacks get? I was actually thinking about this, and I didn't even include Matt Barkley. You have like
Mark
Matt Leinart,
Matt
Sanchez,
Leinart,
yeah, like
Matt
it's
Barkley.
insane.
Why do they have 3 Matts in their sister? They're just trash because they have Mark Sanchez. Mark is not Matt.
Mark's not Matt, but yes.
It's an M name. I got mixed up. My dyslexia just pops up in my brain.
Where were we going with the whole rant about running backs? Though I feel like there was an end point to that, and we just went on a tangent.
That we all of a sudden have good running backs now.
I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, our team, we may not have a lot of like elite starting talent yet, but we definitely have a lot of depth at every position, which is something. It's more than Pace ever did.
That's
Yeah.
true because
Pace only had good starters. If one player went down, we had the worst starter in the league after that. So
that is very true.
Yeah.
But we're gonna start wrapping up this episode. I want to thank you everyone for watching and listening on Spotify and YouTube. All our socials should be on the screen, so go ahead and follow those to keep up with everything we're doing. And I hope you all have a good rest of your day. Bye bye.